Climate science. Climate science is the usually defined as the science of the history of individuals living in disturbance. What is the climate science? Climate science is the long-term shift. What is the climate science? human progress. The temperature of Earth has increased by 0.8 degrees Celsius. But by the putting more and the more reduces the once that is good and other is Weekend. Sierra, Australia, and Oceania, and 28% come from the North America. Almost the 60% of the global carbon dioxide emission came from the two regions. High carbon dioxide emission in Asia, Australia, Oceania. chlorofluorocarbons. Ground carbon. Ground carbon is the ubiquitous and the unidefinite compound of the organic aerosol. Biomass burning, the possibly the domestic wood burning, is shown to be the major source of the brown carbon. Brown carbon is the generally referred for the greenhouse gases and the black carbon for the particles the resulting from impure combustion such as the soot and dust. Gas and source and causes carbon dioxide burning of the fossil fuel deforestation. Chlorofluorocarbons refrigerator solvent বা ইনসালুশন forms uh, aero, aeropropellant, industrial and the commercial use, methane, growing paddy, excreta of the cattle and the other livestock, termites, burning of the fossil fuel, wood, landfills, wetland, the fertilizer factories, nitrogen oxide, burning of the fossil fuel, fertilizer, burning of wood and the crop residue, carbon monoxide, iron one the smelting, burning of the fossil fuel, burning e-waste, ozone hole and the global warming. The chlorofluorocarbons play a role in the both global warming and ozone hole formation. In the troposphere, they act as the greenhouse gases that absorb infrared radiation coming from the surface of the Earth, and by the trapping this heat close to the Earth, they contribute to the global warming. In the Consequence of the global warming on the ocean. Global warming is likely to harm as a number of the effect of the oceanic convection in this world. carbon dioxide dissolve more easily in the cold water than in the warm the water, so the warmer temperature will reduce the ability of the oxygen to take in the carbon dioxide and escape the further enhance the greenhouse effect. Higher temperatures are also the predicted increase the input of the fresh water into the high altitude oxygen. The comfort of models success then this reduction the fresh water comes from the increased movement in the high latitude and from the melting of the ice sheet. Ocean circulation is the very sensitive to the amount of the fresh water entering the system. The fresh water that control the density of the seawater when it is the cooler. If the water is too the fresh cooling uh, one has more active balance the enough to the sink into the deep ocean. If the water does not shrink at the high latitudes, there is only the wind drive the forcing, and therefore the reduce the water the circulation around the ocean. The warmer the temperature also causes the expansion of the water and along with the additional water from ice the melt will the result in the rise in the sea level that may the cause the flooding. The excess the carbon dioxide the absorbed by the ocean will the lead from the formation of the carbonic acid. This is the called as the oceanic acidation. This the acidification will have the determined effects of the forming that creators like the corals because it will the reduce the ability of the carbonate ions in the ocean and lead to formation will lead to the migration of the tropical metals that creators that warm the temperature areas thus the distributing the food ability and the biodiversity of the region. The researchers have the found that the rising the temperature in the world uh, oceans will the effort the development of the plankton on which the most marine life it has been the due demonstrate that is increasing the from the causes by the changing climate will the upset the natural cycles of the carbon dioxide, the nitrogen and the phosphorus. This will the effect and the plankton making is the skincer and so the causing the provenance for the fish and the other the species the higher up the food chain. Agriculture and the global warming. The intensity of the cloudiness of the agriculture and land and the deforestation are also way to the increase the carbon dioxide emissions of the contain a large amount of the organic matters in it. Therefore, also another important carbon stored on the soil is the intensively cloud. So the more the oxygen can get into it is the extra oxygen increase the rate at which the organic matter is the broken down into the carbon dioxide. The nitrous oxide is the produced the biological in the soil, water and animal waste. Over the last 2 centuries, the human activities have increased nitrous oxide concentration by 13%. The main source of nitrous oxide are the fossil fuel, the combustion, agriculture, soil, the management industry, and the use of the nitrogen-based fertilizer. The main source of the methane, natural gas. Methane is a natural gas and methanes are the demand of the livestock, cows and sheep, and rice cultivation. The methane is the produced by the microscopic organisms which grow in the anaerobic condition. The anaerobic means that there is no oxygen present. The anaerobic condition occur in the water levels, the soil. Rice is the grow in the cooler that the field to show rice. The paddies are in the ideal environment for this the methane production organism to grow. About the third of the total amount of the methane in the atmosphere comes from the agricultural uh, sources. Other than natural sources of the methane are coal and the petroleum field. The agriculture can the help to the reduce the greenhouse gas the emission by the adopting practices and practices that alone work. The carbon dioxide will be the stored in the soil, the crops and trees by the brambles, and the swallowing the rate of the deforestation more the effective use of the chemical will lead off to the cleaner agriculture and climate smart agriculture. The climate smart agriculture CSA is the approach that the help to the guide action need to the transform and the reorient the agricultural system to the effectively support development and the ensure food security in the changing climate. CSA aims to tackle three main the objectives. Sustainability, the increase the agriculture, the productivity and incomes, the adapting and the building the resilience to the climate change, reducing the and or the removing the greenhouse gas the emission when the possible. CSA is and the approach for the developing agriculture that strategies to the secure the sustainable food security under the climate change. CSA the provide the means to help the stakeholders from the local to the national and the international level identify agriculture the strategies suitable to the other local condition. The developing the potential to the increase the productivity and the incomes from the smallholders crops, the livestock fish and the forestal production. The systems will be the key to the receiving global for the security over the next 20 years. The climate change is the expected to hit the developing countries the hardest. It is the effective increase the higher temperature sense in the precipitation, the patterns, rising sea levels, and more the frequent extreme weather event. All of these the pose the risks over the agriculture, food, and water supplies. The resilience is therefore the predominant concern. The agriculture is the major source of the greenhouse gas. The emission, the mitigation can the often be a significant uh, component of the action for the distant the adaptations and the enhanced food security and this the mitigation action the competitive boost the national development the priorities for the agriculture is the important aspect of CSA. The different elements of the climate smart agriculture system include the management of the farm crops, the livestock, ag- aquaculture, and the capture the fisheries to the balance near-term food security and livelihood need with the priorities for the adoptions and the mitigation. The ecosystem in the landscape, the management to conserve the ecosystem service that are the important for the food security, agriculture development, the adoption and the mitigation. The service for the farmer and land managers to the enable better the manage management of the climate risks, the impact and the mitigation action. The sense in the winter food the system including the demand side, measuring and the value side, the intervention that enhance the benefit of CSA. The CSA is known to the climate smart agriculture. This is the short form to the CSA. CSA is not the set of the practice that can be the universally applied, but the rather and the approach that involves different elements that embedded in the local context. Uh, Climate smart agriculture related to the action both on farm and the beyond the farm and the incorporates the technologies, the policies, the institutions and the investment. Consequence of the consequence of the climate change because the Earth climate system is to the large to the undertakes control the experiment. The scientists use the mathematical models known as the global circulation model to the forest climate trend over the coming decades. The major predictors are as below. The climate change will the impact the agriculture and the food production around in the world due to the effect of the elevated carbon dioxide in the atmosphere. Higher temperature alter the precipitations and the transit, transit, transpiration and the regimes that increase the frequency of the extreme event and the modified outbursts and the patterns. Temperature in general low latitude areas are at the most risk of the having and decreases crop yield. Methane to the stop climate change. The people can slow down and eventually stop the climate change. We have the already started the step that can be the helpful in the doing so are the burn less the fossil fuels so that we emit less the carbon dioxide. The alternatives, the energy resources such as wind, solar, hydro, biomass, and the nuclear power should be ex- exploited. The stop deforestation to the prevent release of the stored carbon. The carbex that drowns the landfills release the methane from the rotting the organic waste by the capturing this the gas and the using it as fuel, which get the both the heat and the reduce the emission of the greenhouse gases. The buildings and the energy and the resource the efficient economy, especially the polluting agriculture and the industrial sector. The carbon sequestration. The carbon sequestration is the process that involved in the carbon capture and the long-term storage of the atmosphere carbon dioxide. It can be done in the following way: afforestation, wetland restoration, sustainable agriculture, growing the seaweed that can be used to produce biomethane. The biochar produced by pyrolysis of the biogas. It can be used as the landfill and the increase soil the fertility. Subterranean the injection which the involve the injecting carbon dioxide into the developed oil and gas reservoirs and other the geological features or into the deep ocean. Iron fertilization of the ocean, encouraging the growth of the plankton and thus the capturing carbon dioxide. Carbon sink, the green carbon, the removed by the plants and the stored in the plant and soil. Blue carbon, the coastal, aquatic and the marine carbon sinks help by the indicative vegetations, marine organism and sentiment. Blue carbon initiatives. It is a global program. This is working to the mitigate emissions through the restoration and the sustainable use of the coastal and the marine ecosystem. The initiatives that currently focus on the mangrove, tidal marshes, and the seagrass. The blue carbon initiatives bring together the government, research, the institution, non-governmental organizations, and communities from around the world. The initiatives is coordinated by the Conservation International (CI), the International Union for the Conservation of Nature (IUCN), and the Intergovernmental Oceanographic Commission of the United Nations Educational, the Scientific and the Cultural Organization (IOC UNESCO). The carbon tax. This tax is based on the amount of the carbon contained in it, the geoenergy. It is the large scale the intervention in the Earth's climatic system with the aims of the limiting the climate change. Theoretically, there are two major types of the intervention: the carbon sequestration and the solar radiation management. Solar radiation management technique include the firing sulfur dioxide into atmosphere, putting hot mirror in the space, the creating fires, the colored rooftop and other the structure which have high albedo. Climate change organization UNFCCC, the United Nations, the Conference on the Environment and Development (UNCED), also known as the Earth Summit, was held in the Rio de Janeiro, Brazil from 3 to 14 June 1992. The primary objective The primary objective of the Rio Art Summit was the products of the board agenda and the new blueprint for the international action on environment and development issues that would help guide the international cooperation and development policy in the 21st century. The Art Summit the concluded that the concept of the sustainable development was an attainable goal. The balancing the economic, social, and environmental concern in the meeting over the need in the battle for the sustaining human life on the planet. Agenda 21 and during the program of the action calling for the new strategies to the invest in the fisheries to the achieve over the sustainable development in the 21st century. In 1992, the countries have joined and the international treaty, the United Nations framework, the Convention on the Climate Change as the framework for the international cooperations to the combat climate change by the limiting efforts the global temperature increase and the resulting climate change and the coping with the impact that were by than the inevitable. By 1995, the countries that launched the negotiation to the studies and the global response to the climate change and the 2 year later adopt the Kyoto Protocol. The Kyoto Protocol legally brings the develop the country the parties to the emission the reduction target. The protocol first committee the period started in 2008 and in 2012 the second committee period began. The second commitment period that began on the 1st January 2013. and will into 2020